of reciprocal tariffs as a response to barriers that have been put on U.S. goods and exports. The Trump and the White House administration have mourned repeatedly about the unfair trade practices from partners causing huge imbalances with the United States. Now, the president has been arguing for his plans to enact tariffs and has said that instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other nations, we will tariff and tax foreign nations to enrich our citizens. But most economists disagree that tariffs will enrich the American people, and real-world examples of tariffs working that way are very rare. The consumers in the tariff-levying nations often suffer in these deals because prices invariably rise. The analysts say that tariffs artificially raise the cost of doing business, which depresses the overall economic production in the form of lower gross domestic product. The artificially higher prices and fewer goods sold for the consumer. This means a reduction in purchasing power. The Trump's reciprocal tariffs on Wednesday have provoked world condemnation and fears of a possible recession and stagflation. And those recession bets have fueled a market meltdown in which $2.5 trillion of valuation has been wiped off from the Wall Street. The Asian stocks also showed deep losses as the investors braced for further pain across the global markets. The U.S. stock market is down almost 10% since Trump has taken charge of the office. This marks the worst 10-week start under a new president in nearly 24 years. The last one was under the then-President George W. Bush during the dot-com sell-off. The Standard & Poor's 500 index is virtually in a correction over the 52 trading sessions since Inauguration Day. Nasdaq 100 index has shed 5.4% to mark loss was about $209 billion, Amazon's was $187 billion, and Meta's value fell by $133 billion.
Are you negotiating with partners currently?
What we have is we have a set of tariffs based on what they've been charging us. That's reciprocal. And those tariffs have come in and every country's called us. That's the beauty of what we do. We put ourselves in the driver's seat. If we would have asked some of these countries, most of these countries, to do us a favor, they would have said no. Now they'll do anything for us. But we have tariffs, they've been set, and it's going to make our country very rich.
Now, Trump also seems to be pretty unperturbed about the deep market plunge. He said that the market response was actually just expected.
First, we'd love to get your reaction, sir, to what's going on in the financial markets today.
Well, I mean, it's to be expected. This is a patient that was very sick. We really inherited a terrible economy, as you know, with a lot of problems, including loss of manufacturing and plants closed up all over the country. You know, we've lost 90,000 plants since NAFTA, if you think of that. 90,000, it's not even believable, and about 6 million jobs. And so it was a sick patient. It went through an operation on Liberation Day, and it's going to be a booming country, a very booming country. It's going to be amazing, actually, and we see it because we have trillions of dollars committed to come in, trillions.
All right, now to give us more perspective on this, we are joined by Dr. Suyash, the Director at Academy for Finance, Technology and Innovation, is joining us live from Dubai. Mr. Bhatt, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Beyond. Now, the question that is on everyone's mind is the fact that the markets have reacted with a lot of shock. It's all been red ever since Donald Trump announced those tariffs. In your assessment, are we heading into a recession because of this tariff war that Trump has unleashed?
Good evening. I think, the summary that you gave captured a lot of things that have already happened. I believe tariff in the history, if you see, there was a Smoot-Hawley Act which was passed in 1930 as a measure of protectionism by the American government at that time. That was famously called as the Tariff Act. And it was during the Great Depression. and it was to protect the American economy. And after the passing of that act, or in imposing those tariffs, the world trade went down by 60%. And this time, I think there's nothing going to be, I mean, I wish I'm wrong, but I believe these tariffs are going to unleash really a very unknown kind of space where all the countries, where you had a world order, you had a World Trade Organization, where the US actually brought in China and wanted to have a rule-based system,
Right.
is completely being turned upside down. So, and when you impose tariff, you need to understand that when America imposes tariff on other country, and when goods come inside the country, these goods are going to be expensive in America. So, it will cause inflation in the American economy. And you can see in the market that just in one day, 2.5 trillion US dollars worth of wealth is eroded. And for how much? To save or to bring $600 billion worth of gains from these tariffs. So
Right.
I'm sure this really unfold, and it's really uncertain time that we're going to get into.
All right.
And slowly we are heading towards a recession, yes.
Right. Now,
Not just US recession, but a global recession.
interesting. But in your assessment, what do you think the impact is likely to be on India? Because the Commerce Ministry has said that it is studying the clauses of these tariffs, and considering that India's neighbors, such as China and Bangladesh, have had much higher rates of tariffs imposed by the United States, can India actually take advantage in these uncertain times?
Right. So, see, in last 20, 30 years, we have become a part of this globalized economy. And even if we say that, we have a 26% tariff and China has 54% tariff, we may not be insulated from the global recession that happens. So maybe from a lesser tariff, some industries may benefit, like maybe textile, to some extent, where Vietnam, Bangladesh, and others were trying to take away a huge chunk of the export that we are looking at. Maybe they'll benefit in the medium term, but at the end of the day, you need to understand it is still 26% expensive for the American consumer. So
Right.
if you just take a simple example of Indian economy, see the IT sector. IT sector is not going to get affected directly. But the reason why the IT sector is getting punished in India is because if America goes in recession, the spending goes down, and
Right.
the banking sector, the retail sector, to whom they cater to, those clients are not going to give them more orders. So it's like an indirect effect. So in many cases, we may not be able to escape this recession, because if the globally all countries get into it,
Right.
we may also be pushed into it. Maybe the impact may be a little less, but yes, for sure there will be some impact on India.
Interesting. We'll have to see as to how it unfolds. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Suyash Bhatt, for joining us with that perspective then.
Thank you.
Now, the American President Donald Trump's sweeping new tariffs has drawn a wave of reactions. Listening to what